welcome to the Ecstatic Woman Summit, how to reconnect with your body and your sexuality. And we are so happy to have Jonita joining us today and guiding us through this powerful exploration of connecting to your body, connecting to your yoni, and connecting to the dark feminine. So Jonita, thank you so much for joining and saying yes to sharing your medicine and gifts with all of us.
I'm so excited. Thank you for presenting this space for us to speak this beautiful wisdom. I'm so grateful to be here and talk about this important aspect of our womanhood, of being an ecstatic woman.
Yeah, powerful. And I know a lot of your work resonates with the embodiment, sexuality, connecting to your body, you know, with your background in Tantra, being the self, leadership coach for women. Can you share a little bit about what kind of work you do in the world, what inspires you so people get to feel you?
Yes, my work has been evolving over the last 4 years into specifically around the archetype of the dark feminine as well as the empress. And I feel like this is pretty much very in resonance with the times that we are encountering and the changes in the world that we are experiencing. So my work is mostly around embodiment practices. I bring in the tool of the Eastern medicine. I am from India. I was born and raised in India, and I have a beautiful connection to the tantric lineage, the classical tantric lineage, which is not very popular in the West as such in their totality. So I utilize the elements of the tantric lineage from the East and bring it to the modern day lives of women so that we can really find that intersection between the busyness of our lives and the sacredness to maintain our sanity, to be honest. I moved out from India in my early 20s, and I started living in London. And I've been there ever since for 15 years almost. And so I have this experience of being in the Eastern world and also being in the Western world. And neither of that provided me a tangible solution to how I can experience womanhood my own way, in my true essence. So my work is pretty much about combining the Eastern mysticism to the Western modern day lifestyle for busy women.
So you embody the Tantra, right? It's like very close to, this is so powerful. And I love that you take the ancient wisdom, but also bring it back into the modern life and modern culture and how we live our daily lives, having jobs, businesses, kids, and just living a very different life. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what inspired you to choose this path? Like, was it your personal journey, or like, how did you align with that kind of medicine?
Yeah, I think for many of us, it has been a personal journey. So as I mentioned, I grew up in India, and throughout my young days, I grew up in a very privileged family in India, where I was given just one teaching to hone down that no matter what you do, you got to grow up and become independent, so that no man can be over you. Oh, so wow. My parents tried to distill this kind of, I would say, consciousness in me that in order for me to be equal to the opposite gender or the men or in the masculine society, which pretty much India is and was at the time, I have to be an independent woman. So and how do I be an independent woman? That means I need to really study hard and get to in good university and become an IT engineer or a doctor, like most of the Indians do, get a really good job in a corporate and be financially free. And that's how you become independent. And that's exactly how I thought would be my path. And I ended up becoming an IT engineer at a very young age of 22. And started working in corporate. I was making good money, and I wasn't feeling the freedom. It wasn't there. I was chasing something. Yes, I had financial freedom, and I was sitting in rooms with other men, and I was hanging side by side, but I wasn't free inside. And interestingly, growing up, I always thought that women in the West are free. Women in the West have more freedom, more independence, more freedom of expression. So when I had this opportunity to go to London for work and study, I moved to London thinking, all right, I'm going to go to London and I will finally be free. And there it was. I did not find freedom. I found freedom of expression. Yes, it was very different society, very different way of being, quite liberal society as compared to the traditional conservative Indian society. And I loved it. I enjoyed it. I had a really good job. I had good friends, and I soon realized that I too, like many other women at my work, at my social circles, were mostly concentrating on looking beautiful, looking good on the outside, and inside was this hollowness, this emptiness. So this left me really confused about this whole concept of independent freedom, expression as a woman at the age of 22. So I was really confused. And that time was a time where I met with one of the dark nights of the soul moments of my life, where I was, my father in India passed away all of a sudden, and a lot of other things started to break down around me. I was covered with eczema all over my body. I didn't feel good in my health. I was, drinking. I was addicted to partying, going to work Monday to Friday, weekend, Saturday partying, and then Sunday recovering from the hangovers, Monday going back to work. Like it all just got me. And it was that moment where I realized that I don't want to be in the East. I don't want to be in the West. It's not about the place. I really want to find out, how am I supposed to be as a woman?
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of my quest. Things kind of lined up, beautiful synchronicities happened, and I found a beautiful guide who invited me to explore the essence. And that essence really led me to here. That exploration led me to here. It was never intended that I would teach this, I would make it as a business. But it was sort of the evolution of me finding my own essence that led me to do this work at this point.
Yeah, perfect. And now going through that experience, you guide other women who maybe feel stuck, feel like, everything looks good and everything looks right and the paycheck feels safe, but then there is like deeper longing for something that is available, but not necessarily tangible yet.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly the journey of the dark feminine. I want to bring in this topic, so excited about it, because we don't realize that, we as women, we hold this powerful archetype inside of us, the archetype of dark feminine. And this dark feminine is very different from the shadow feminine. So the dark feminine is pretty much the unmet parts of ourselves that are wanting to be met or seen. And when we ignore that aspect for a really long time, it then turns into our shadow traits. It then turns into moments where we are thrown into the dark nights of the soul. So it becomes really apparent, and I'm really passionate about teaching and sharing this to women, that as a woman, we cycle, we go through darkness, we go through light, and this is the tantra of our life. And the more we recognize that and embrace it, not to heal or to fix, but to embrace that aspect of ourselves, the more we come into this ecstasy of being a woman in entirety.
Yeah, and that's the path of wholeness and unity, right? The tantric path. Yeah, I love it. And when you say shadow feminine and dark feminine are different, can you, because it's so nuanced, so can you specify for somebody who is curious and open?
Yeah, so the shadow parts of the feminine are pretty much, as they say, the bad parts, the ugly parts, the parts that do not serve you. in your everyday being, in your everyday essence, and you know that, you know, it's this your, for example, your emotional manipulation, or the sense of neediness, or the sense of validation. These are the shadow traits of the feminine. And when we really dissect, when we really go step away from figuring out what our shadow feminine is, and then try to heal it or fix it, we get an opportunity to understand our dark feminine. And our dark feminine is pretty much an aspect of our feminine that we have suppressed or repressed for a really long time. She wants to be met, to be seen. And this is the aspect of our feminine that is usually speaking to us, that, hey, don't make that choice, but we go and make that choice. Hey, don't do this, that relationship, but we go ahead and do this. And the reason we unconsciously ignore our dark feminine is because oftentimes what I have noticed, including me, we women are really afraid of our own sense of power. So the dark feminine pretty much is our repressed power within. She's speaking to us, but we don't want to listen to her because we are afraid what we will encounter.
Yeah. Even thinking through, I know you work with archetypes, so even thinking through like who embodies the dark feminine, right? Kali, Lilith, Sekhmet, you know, Kali destroys stuff on her way, you know, she burns everything. So there's definitely a lot of fear around, oh my God, if I embrace that part, like what would fall apart?
Yeah, that's so true. And you know, the way of these dark goddesses is to once again mirror and reflect the parts of ourselves that we have not accepted yet. And that's exactly what the dark feminine essence, the dark feminine energy is. And we are just coming out of a dark feminine retreat, Kali retreat in India, and this was a very present element that most women spoke about, the angry aspect of the feminine, the rage of the feminine of Kali. And yet there is another aspect that is not very well spoken, which is the aspect of she being the mother, because she's not just Kali, she's Kali Ma.
Yeah.
Right. She's the mother. So she's the destroyer and she is the liberator. But we get stuck in the destroying energy. We say like, hey, I'm having a Kali moment when we are feeling angry. But how about the compassionate, beautiful, compassionate, motherly nature of Kali? When do we get to embrace that? And that is the unity that we get to bring to our dark feminine.
Yeah, beautiful. And how can a woman start, getting curious or working with those energies that is aligned with safety, ecology, just kind of like contemplating those darker frequencies?
So my experience has mostly been that firstly, we women encounter this dark feminine energy on a regular basis when we are, let's say, when we are coming closer to the new moons. A couple of days before the new moons are the dark moon phases, when we are a couple of days ahead of our menstruation. These are the days where we truly feel all sorts of emotions coming up. The dark feminine is really out and loud during that time. And I don't have to explain more to the women listening or watching, because we all very well know, but we think it as like, okay, this, I'm going on the tangent again. I'm going there again. Oh, this is happening. Oh, the PMS. Oh, I hate my periods. Oh, this time of the moon, right? So instead of really looking into why these repetitive emotions keep coming up in our bodies, in our psyche during specifically this time, during the dark feminine energy times of our cyclic nature, is one crucial aspect to begin the journey with the dark feminine. Dark feminine also shows up when we begin to connect with our lower chakras, which is usually the womb and the yoni. When we do a lot of womb related work, when we do yoni related work, what happens is oftentimes we meet a lot of anger. There is a lot of anger. Yes, of course, there's love, there is power, there is wisdom, but oftentimes there is a lot of anger. And underneath that anger is a great deal of fear or sadness.
Yeah.
So if a woman is feeling all sorts of these repetitive emotions during these times of their menstruation or the moon cycle, then it might be a good idea to why not start working with the energies of the womb, the yoni, to see what else is present, where are you repressing your own power.
Yeah, this is beautiful. And I love how you bring it back into the body, and especially working with our biology and womb and maybe energetic womb at this point, but also connecting with that yoni magic. Can you talk a little bit, because I know you teach classes on, jade, yoni eggs, and connecting with that lower chakras and areas of feminine embodiment. Can you talk a little bit about the role of working with those centers when we are desiring being ecstatic, when we are desiring to be in our full unapologetic expression, so our life force energy moves without any stops and blocks? Can you share a little bit more about the role of yoni here?
Yes, absolutely. So yoni means the sacred portal, the gateway to higher levels of consciousness. This is a Sanskrit word, and which in itself defines that this is a place, a center in our body that we can utilize to access higher levels of consciousness. So the practice around yoni, specifically the yoni egg, let's talk about that, is not just particularly to experience pleasure or to experience multiple orgasms and have better sex, and of course why not, but it doesn't limit us there. It is a practice that has been developed since ancient times. The written records are from 5,000 years ago from the Chinese lineage. However, if we are into feminine mysteries, then you will see associations of Isis with the yoni egg, Mary Magdalene with the yoni egg. So the yoni egg has been a powerful tool in the feminine mysteries for a really, really long time. And the interesting fact is that it is not just to experience pleasure, but to activate the muscles of our yoni so that our yoni becomes a self-regenerative ecosystem in itself. And that helps firstly to balance our hormones as women, our stressful life, our day-to-day high-level stress environments lead us to a lot of hormonal depletion and hormonal imbalance. So doing this work really helps women to restore that balance. And when we start doing this work, what happens is also that we connect to higher levels of consciousness, which is pretty much the concept of Tantra itself. The Tantra is, the classical Tantra is about uniting our sexuality with higher levels of consciousness, the feminine meeting the Shiva consciousness. But what I have noticed is that, we get just stuck to the lower chakras, and we don't know when we feel so much of, sexual energy or arousal in our body. What do we do with this? We are so used to being the sexual doings and not the sexual beings that we just don't know what to do with so much of sexual energy. And why so? Right? Mm-hmm. However, when done properly, when through ritualistic ways of embodying sound, breath, movement, intention, we can open up our heart chakra as well as our higher chakras, which leads to connecting through this yin cycle in the feminine. In Tantra, the yin cycle consists of 3 major points, which is our lower chakra, the sacral chakra, the heart chakra, as well as the 6th chakra, or 3rd eye chakra. These 3 chakras are the positive polarities in women. So, which is why it is important for us to work with these chakras and do practices to unite this chakra. Yeah, I can go on and on about it, but I'll let you speak.
So powerful, but for somebody who is a little bit more new, when we talk about this work with the yoni, like what would be a good place to start? Maybe like some basic safety, something around like even how we can relate to it so it doesn't cause more harm, but it actually becomes a healing tool of connecting all of those energetics.
Yeah, I think one of the very foundational process, the practice is to spend time with the yoni. And I teach that a lot in my free series as well as in my programs. It includes you firstly creating a safe space where you can sit just simply holding your yoni, bare hand, simply holding and simply feeling what is going on? What are the thoughts that are coming up? What are the sensations? And a lot can come up. And that's just by you touching and bringing your presence and intention to listen. And there is no need to respond. There is no need to, do things in reaction to whatever comes up, but just be present to this part of your body and see what comes up, because that will be a foundational guide for you to go ahead in deepen this practice. And then there are many other rituals like yoni gazing. It's a beautiful ritual as well. Again, I teach all of those processes. Touching the yoni in different, through different ways, through different kinds of touches also bring different emotions in us as women. So I think what is more important is to first build that connection with our yoni through presence and intention, a non-judgmental way of perceiving whatever is present. And that's a beautiful process to just start. What also happens is that oftentimes we may not feel anything for the first couple of times, and that's absolutely normal. I like to say that most of our yonis have been in long-term coma because we are not used to come to this part of our body in a sacred way, in a way that is revered. The society, there's a lot of taboo against it, and we use this part of our body just for sex in a way sometimes that's not sacred as well. So we're not being taught how to come to this part of our body through reverence. So it is quite normal that your yoni may not respond. It's a connection that you build through spending time. It requires you coming back and wanting to be with her, wanting to listen to her.
Yeah, and it's such an easy concept, but it's so life-changing. I remember when I started my tantric path, and the guidance was like, for the first time, stop imagining or stop being turned on by a specific person or a specific kind of the sexiness of the environment or the way you look, and literally focus on each sensation and even around, around, and just kind of connect where you feel pleasure, where you feel pain, where there is numbness, where there is, actual emotional reaction. It was so mind-blowing just to bring that level of awareness and have a different experience that we are so not trained in. Because when we think about sex, it's something that's turning you on, and you have this amazing partner, or you're thinking about something that lights you up, and we are so disconnected from basic physical sensation of that presence.
Yeah, and the emotional responses that are associated with those sensations, because a huge amount of stuff is revealed through those sensations in itself. And another thing I like to really advise is for when you are in a safe space, let's say when you're at home, try not wearing an underwear and let your yoni breathe. And that's amazing. You will feel so uncomfortable in the beginning, but also you will begin to feel a sense of liberation there. Hey, what's happening? My yoni is, responding, feeling more, sensing more. And this is also a beautiful way to, start awakening those sensations in your yoni.
Yeah, beautiful. And I love it. I love it as a beginning practice of just, putting your hand and being present and then seeing what comes up. And when you talk about yoni gazing, can a woman do it by herself in the mirror? Or maybe what's your process so they can also work with the visual imprint of that medicine?
Yeah. So I like to create a beautiful ritual around it. So what I do is have a big mirror in front of me, which is really important that you are not having a small mirror or just a camera, so that you feel comfortable. You can create a beautiful sacred environment, set your intention, and I like to keep the lights off and then have a candle placed between myself and the mirror on sideways. So it's just the mirror, me, and this candlelight, this fire next to me, and just begin to gaze and gaze and gaze out of curiosity. And also oftentimes it triggers women a lot. So having your hands in the body and remembering yourself to breathe. So there's a whole guided process I teach as well around it. But this is just the foundation of how one can just begin to dare to start this process.
Yeah.
And journaling also, once this practice is over, I highly, highly, highly recommend to take time to journal, because a lot of integration happens when we do the journaling post this ritual.
Yeah. And it's powerful, you know, when you get to connect by looking in the mirror, that your yoni has something to say to you too. You know,
Yeah.
time she was violated and mistreated and disregarded, and it's such a powerful healing partnership process.
And what I have heard from the many women that I have worked with is that oftentimes when they start this process, they can't even look, or they go into all sorts of judgments about the look or about all the things wrong with the shape, the color, or the design, and all of that. And you know, this creates a block, or this creates a resistance, or some kind of put off oftentimes. So what I like to also say that if you're wanting to do a yoni gaze ritual, then it is highly recommended that you do it for a dedicated period of days. So dedicate yourself for 3 days or 7 days. 7 days is beautiful. Just sit with whatever comes up, and you will see through the layers of, after the layers of judgment and all of the resistance and all of the pain, there is this sweet spot that will come ahead and meet you.
Yeah, this is so powerful. And I feel like it's a very beautiful place to start the journey, because I know some of the practices that you teach, they're a little bit more advanced, right? Like working with the jade egg. So it might need a little bit more guidance and mentorships from somebody who is doing this work and knows the safety piece, and also like integrity around and intentionality about it. Yeah.
I see a lot of misguidance floating around this practice of yoni eggs, and a lot of slamming going on around why it's not good, why it's not safe. And this is absolutely a safe practice when you do it in a way, in a safe container. And I see many people recommending that, hey, go to the shower and then just shove it in and go about your day. And I don't see any use of this practice if it is done this way. This is a ritualistic practice which requires you to set the space, set the time, and follow certain guidance, you know, so that you benefit the most with the time that you are creating. So it's not just like you are, you know, going to a yoni gym and lifting some weight like Kegels and done with it. That's not the way how this practice is supposed to be done. It requires you to learn certain breathing techniques, certain pelvic floor movement with your intention, with your sound. It's also very important. So there's a whole set of framework that brings the sacredness to this practice, to this ancient practice, which is beyond just, you know, doing Benoit balls or Kegels or yoni weightlifting and all of that.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's just so powerful. We didn't have speaker giving us direction or invitation to go deep in that yoni verse, or, you know, of unlocking all of this deliciousness and ecstatic potential. I know you have amazing gifts for our audience. Can you share, because I think it falls into what we're already talking about, but can you create some excitement about that?
Yeah, sure. I'm really excited to share about that. So the free series is called Return to Your Sacred Portal. And this is a 7-day series where I am going to be sharing with you 7 small tantric rituals for you to begin your journey with the yoni. So there are 7 guided practice for you to play with, for you to understand, for you to reconnect, find that aspect of your feminine back and come back home to that ecstasy in you.
Well, thank you. This is amazing. We're going to upload the link so women can start practicing, start exploring. And what is the best way to find you? I know you work with women all over the world. You take them through the yoni initiations, but like, how can people find you? What kind of programs you have? What's the best way to connect personally?
Best way to connect with me will be through my Facebook page. I am there mostly, and I have only recently started an Instagram account, so I'm getting there, getting the hang of it. I had been on Insta, but I was deleted. My account was deleted for sharing a lot about the yoni stuff. So, so I'm starting all over again. But Facebook is a good page, good place to connect. I go under the title of Exploring Femininity, or you can just look for Jonita D'souza. And on Instagram, I am as Empress Jonita. And my website is jonitadesouza.com. So these are the 3 places where you can find me.
Yeah. And how do you work with women? Do you work online? Do you have, like, what's your container so people can map you?
Yeah, so I have quite a few self-guided courses online, which one of them is the Jade Egg Magic, which is a 21 days journey. It's all about honing your skills, starting from preparation to the practice, to the advanced practice. And then I have another beautiful online course, which is called the Womb Rage, which is all about going into the dark feminine energy of your womb, tantric practices around it. So these are all guided ceremonial rituals, and quite a few other online courses which are self-study, self-guided. And I also do one-to-one coaching. Also, my signature program is the Empress Codes, which I run once a year, which is a 4-month self-leadership container for women. So that's what is present in my world for now.
That's so much of amazingness and abundance. So thank you so much for sharing. It was a great pleasure having you. I really loved the unique perspective and the practical approach that you brought into how we can start connecting to our body and getting to that ecstatic state of being in our full power and sexuality and full expression. So thank you so much for being here with us today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and we'll update all of your links.
I'm so grateful for you, sister, for creating this platform for all of us to come together and share our gifts, our medicine, and you hold a very beautiful space here. Thank you so much for being this way.
Thank you.